if you're investing.
Investors will.
The podcast for all things real estate investing.
Welcome back to another episode of Investor One on One, where we talk to the top real estate investors from across the nation. Today, we got an incredible guest with a story that proves real estate can truly change your life. He left his W-2 job to go all out in investing. In just his first year, he flipped over 50 properties. Based in Louisville, Kentucky, he specializes in wholesaling, wholetailing, and flipping. And he's also built a portfolio of over 20 rental properties in multiple states. Even been featured in Business Insider, where he shared his insights on finding and profiting from up and coming markets. From starting as a side hustle to paying off debts and now running a successful investment business, his journey is one you don't want to miss. Welcome, Mike Gorius. Thank you for being here, man.
Yeah, or thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Amazing. It's our pleasure to have you and learn more about you today. So, yeah, let's just start with your story. As I stated, you left your W-2 job to go all in on real estate. What were you doing before? What was your turning point that made you take the leap into real estate? And how did you overcome any fear or doubt along this process?
Yeah, great questions. So before real estate, I had about 10 years of corporate America experience, everything from B2C sales and then a lot of recruiting for different engineering companies as well. So getting on the phone, like I had that training from right out of school or even a little bit in school at the end of the day, just for odd jobs that I had. And so picked up a couple different books during COVID. I was used to working like 60 hours a week. And then during COVID, we didn't get furloughed or anything, but they were like, hey, just start working 30, 40 hours a week. So I had a lot more free time in my hands and knew I wanted to be wealthy one day. I knew I wanted to be secure, but didn't know how to get there. And just did a lot of learning in that sense. Eventually came to the decision that real estate was exciting to me. I like tried stocks and I tried day trading. Like I would buy one unit of stock of like Microsoft or whatever, or Coca-Cola, something like that. And like in the same day, I would like buy it and sell it and make like $2.75 and be like, this is it. Like, here we go. Like, that's like what I thought was exciting. And then learning that that's obviously not the way how day trading works. And so tried Bitcoin, all these different things. And real estate was something that was just really exciting to me. And that's what stuck. And so did a lot of learning through that. Lived in Phoenix, did it 100% remotely up until 1 month from now, when I'll be moving to Louisville, just to be there with my business partner, Kevin Hart, not the comedian, but a great guy, born and raised there. We've got a team there as well, with about 4 employees. I think I missed a question, but that's a little bit about my story.
No, that pretty much summarizes it all. And it's an amazing story. So thank you for sharing that. So in your first year, you flipped over 50 properties, which is insane. Can you tell us more about your first deal and what habits or mindset shift do you credit for scaling so quickly?
For sure, yeah. So are you asking about the first deal I ever did or my first deal of 24?
I would say your first, yeah, first deal you've ever done.
Okay, first deal I ever did was a on-market duplex that I bought where I did everything wrong, and call it either grit or stupidity. I still have it, and it's finally hitting a turning point where things are becoming green and starting to cash flow a little bit more. But I wanted to get into real estate so bad that I hired the wrong mentor. I did a lot of things wrong, and I paid for that, and still kind of am. But it set up a good foundation of what exactly not to do, and just how important a property management company is, especially with me being remote. The property management company can literally make or break your business. Um, so I still have that property. Like I said, things are heading along the right way. I had a 401k. I borrowed money from that 401k to buy this property on market. It's duplex with two tenants already in place, in a terrible part of town that, again, being remote, didn't know any of this, and learning the ropes along the way. Eventually things started to get better and better. That was in June of 22. And now with 2024, like you said, we did about 18 wholesales, 26 wholetails, and the rest were full blown flips that we've closed in 2024. So we did two buy and holds as well. Yeah, so it was a fantastic year. A lot of growth from mid 22 to 2024.
I love that. So like you said, you had a lot of mistakes in the beginning, and with every successful investor I speak to, there's always challenges and headaches in the background. What are some of the biggest mistakes investors make when flipping or wholesaling, and how can they avoid them in 2025, would you say?
Yeah, the biggest mistakes that people can make is not being able to run their numbers correctly. Even now, when I work with other wholesalers and flippers, and they're saying, "Hey, like I'm not getting the deals that I see you getting. I'm not getting the deals, even just a couple of them. Can you give me some advice?" And I say, "Yeah, let's look at your processes, let's look at your systems in place, and let's look at how you are doing this." And just talking to other investors, even in Louisville, Kentucky as well, where they're like, "Hey, here's 123 Main Street. Here are the photos. What would you offer on this? What do you think the rehab is?" So on and so forth. Even talking to a recent investor who's, you know, very, very smart, but just needs a little bit of tweaking. And they were overestimating their rehab by about $10,000, $15,000, and they were underestimating their ARV by another $10 to $15,000. And so they were off when they were making their offers. They were coming in 20 to 30 grand less than what they should have been, which of course equated to them getting little to no deals. And so I'm saying if I would have offered 10 to 20,000, 10, or excuse me, 30, 20 to $30,000 more than you, and I still would have made $20,000 on a wholesale. So just helping folks kind of understand what the rehab and the ARV is.
I see. So running the numbers, understanding what you're getting into before you're getting into it. And a lot of investors, just generally summarize it. They're like, okay, I have a feeling, but it's good to be very data driven. And
In that scenario, that investor is kind of safe because they're not making any bad mistakes. They're just not getting any deals and they're staying in one place. If someone was flipped to the other side and they were underestimating rehab and overestimating ARV, they could buy some property or try to wholesale some property and screw over a seller that would leave them in the red big time.
so you're talking a little bit about deals. So finding good deals and motivated sellers in today's industry is one of the biggest challenges for investors. What strategies have worked best for you to consistently find off-market deals and motivate sellers in today's market?
Great questions. Yeah. So the first thing that was like the biggest change for me and Kevin was joining the Joe Homebuyer franchise. It's just been a fantastic network of other investors and mentors where like we're on the top producers call and there's 15 people across 15 different cities in these different markets, and everyone is, chomping at the bit to help each other and provide ways to show support because they're not competing against each other. I got people in San Francisco and Dallas, whatever it might be, and they're happy to hear or say what works for them so we can all kind of collab because again there's no competition there. And what I've learned from them and what was really really successful last year was direct mail. We had a 6x return on probate and inherited for our direct mail. And then the PPC, we just started that last year in June, but we had a 6x return on that as well. We did Facebook, that was about a 4.5, 5x return, so that was still pretty good. Those were the only three paid marketing channels that we did last year. We did the other, and that was 50% of our revenue. The other 50% of our revenue came simply from non-paid marketing channels of either referrals through businesses, through joint ventures, through JVs, and then through MLS deals as well.
Well, what are some key systems or processes you would say that you've put in place because you are remote right now, right? You said you're not in Louisville yet, and you've been working in this market, and you've been doing really amazing in this market. And what you just shared with us, these strategies are amazing. The numbers are amazing. But being remote, is not easy, even though you can find the good deals. You need people you can trust. You need, a good foundation. So what are some key systems or processes that you've put in place that allow you to operate efficiently from anywhere you want?
Yeah, I mean, just your SOP, like, so your SOPs for acquisitions and dispositions should be these living organisms that are constantly changing at the end of the day. We've got a Word document, or excuse me, we've got like a Google page or whatever it's called for our team that is constantly being updated and changed in our daily, morning meetings about what's working and what's not working. Who picks up, like when you pick up a phone for a mail call, here's what to say, here's how to handle that call. When you pick up a phone or when you call someone for a PPC or a Facebook lead, here's how to handle that conversation and what to say. Different scripts for different situations, even down to the minute detail of how to put a lockbox on a house. Like we have all of that written down so that if and when someone needs to look at it, they can easily just, of course, we're there to help and I'm happy to support people, but it's easy for them to just go and check that. So I guess if that partially answers your question, the other systems is doing I think what's made the biggest difference for us recently, because we really bootstrapped and like I like to say we worked hard last year. We worked a little bit smart for sure. Like I'm going to give us some credit. But doing those 52 deals last year was through a lot of grit and hard work. And so now if we're going to be, double our business this year, which is what our goal is to do, we have to work smart and hard. And in doing so, it's been a lot on the acquisition and disposition process. So utilizing different negotiation tactics on both sides. One brief example I'll give, and then I'll quit rambling, is doing a one-time walkthrough through for all of our properties. Even if it's a vacant property, we do a one-time walkthrough. And for VIP buyers, we'll still put that lockbox on there so they can go and see it if and when they need to. But just 2 days ago, when we had a walkthrough, this again, I don't even think this is a ton of people, but we had like 20 people, 20 different investors come through for a 1 hour period for a walkthrough. And doing so then creates hype around that property. And they see that there are 19 other people there. And they're like, shoot, when I come and give my offer 24 hours from now, to Mike and Kevin, I better have my best foot forward if I want to be able to win this deal, because they know they're still going to be able to make money on it as well.
Well, that's a lot of investors. For wholesaling, how would you say you've created such a big network of investors?
So that's a lot on Kevin. He's been phenomenal at that. I mean, he was born and raised in town, and he went to school just down the road as well. And so he's been in doing real estate for about like 6 years now. So one, we do that, and then two, it's just a lot of social media and just constantly putting ourselves out there, showing what is working, what's not working, trying to be as transparent as possible because I mean, we're figuring this out, we're failing forward, and whether we're helping somebody that's one step behind us or 100 steps behind us, like I've been there as well. And so being very transparent, being very down to earth or trying to be, and just, being the same person on social media that we are in real life as well. Folks actually enjoy meeting with us then. And I would like to think from the feedback I've received are not nervous to come up and ask a question because I'm just going to be an open book.
Really cool. So let's talk a little bit more about your deals. You were talking how you and your partner, you guys both do different things and it works very well for both of you. And you guys do a bit of everything. You said wholesaling, wholetailing, flips. How would you say you decide which strategy to use for particular deals?
For sure. Yeah. At the end of the day, our goal is to wholesale everything. And
Mhm.
then as we continue to grow our acquisition and disposition skills, we will wholesale more and more. But until we got better at that, the goal is to make as much money as possible with the least amount of risk. And we think we can do that, or we know we can do that through wholesaling. But last year and forever, as we were continuing to work on these skills, we found out that we had a really good skill of also raising private money. So we raised a little over $2 million last year from different private money, regular Joe Schmoes around the country as well, too, that were happy to lend it to us. And so we were saying, hey, we got this property under contract. We're trying to wholesale it. We did pretty good on the acquisition side. We're working on the disposition side. We can't find a buyer. So we're just going to buy it ourselves. We're going to, keep our word to the seller. And the MLS, depending on who you ask, could be the biggest buyers list out there. And that's a way to get in front of people that we don't have on our buyers list. And so because we're able to still take it down, still make it a deal, we then just wholetail it. So we do little to nothing to it. Most of the time we do absolutely nothing and we just list it for a profit and then close on it that way. The flips that we do, like full blown flips, is us one just saying, hey, we think we're going to make more money for not a ton more work on the flip side. But essentially, when we put a wholesale out, we have the ability to flip everything if we wanted to do that. And we don't want to do that. But essentially, what we're saying to our investor partners that we work with that are flippers is we're saying, convince us to not flip this. We think we're going to make $50,000 net profit on this flip if we do that. Give me a wholesale offer that convinces me to wholesale this to you in the next, 14 to 30 days. And if I'm only going to profit $10,000 in the wholesale, that may or may not be worth it. If I'm going to profit $25,000 in that wholesale, then that probably is worth it. And if someone can make that offer, then yeah, we're happy to wholesale it to you. But if not, we know we already have a deal. So we're going to either wholesale that or flip it ourselves.
That's a very interesting strategy. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So the way we connected, Mike, is, I found that article that you guys were on Business Insider, and I read about the Louisville, Kentucky market, and you guys were talking about how it's like growing and why you guys invest there. And as I told you, we have more than 2,000 real estate investors with us getting leads all across America. And, they're always looking for new markets, always looking for new opportunities, always looking for new people to connect with. In your opinion, what makes Louisville an emerging market for real estate investing? And are there any trends or opportunities investors should be paying attention in general in that area?
Great questions. Yeah. So why I picked Louisville and why it still is a good market is that it's like the Midwest, you can actually still find houses that like rentals, long-term rentals that cash flow. So that has been, being able to actually beat the 1% rule is a big reason that people like this market. Um, the weather's, not too bad at the end of the day, too. I mean, Louisville's like right in the center of the country. You're almost pretty close to it in the sense that Ohio's to the north, so it's a little bit Midwest. Tennessee to the south, a little bit of that south as well. So people are super nice. It can get like super, super cold here for 1 or 2 weeks a year, and it'll get really, really hot for 1 or 2 weeks a year. And it's a little windy, but there's nothing like major that happens. So people also like it for that sense. It's like a 2 hour or 4 hour drive within like seven other major metro areas. So it's just central to a lot of stuff in that sense too. The food is surprisingly good. Usually, I feel like, being someone that lived in Massachusetts for the first half of his life and Phoenix for the second half, you would think that a lot of places in like the Midwest, no shame or hate on anybody, but it's like, oh, it's not going to be the best. But actually, the food was really, really good in Louisville. Like they've got a ton of different restaurants there. Um, Even coming from Phoenix, like the Mexican food in Louisville is really good. So I was pleasantly surprised by that. People are super nice. They also have it's like a hub for UPS. They have one Ford plant in Louisville, and then just a couple minutes outside of Louisville, they are putting a second Ford plant as well. So major corporations are investing in the area too.
Well, I need to come visit, man. As I told you, I'm from Miami, and this market is very, very crowded. There's some really good deals, of course, if you can find them here, but that's why I wanted to learn more about the Kentucky market and all that. But following up to that, the real estate space is very competitive in general. What do you think differentiates you from other investors, and how can new investors stand out in a crowded market?
That's a great question. So, what differentiates us from other investors? I think one is there are not many folks that in this space that have the franchise model, and I was very hesitant to do that at first too. Buying that franchise fee and like I could just put all that money directly into marketing. But it's been fantastic that I have no joke, like 10 plus people that I could call at any point and be like, here's my issue, or here's what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts on this? And it's saved me a ton of times. Like there's been like countless times where I make that phone call to people that have multiple multi-million dollar investor operations in different cities and they own all of them. Like Jerry Norton is a Joe Home buyer. He's got like 10 different franchises around the city, around the country for Joe Home buyer, as well too. And so I can call anyone like that, say, here's what I'm thinking, or here's what I want to do. And they've said, that's a great idea, Mike. Like, go do that. Or they said, geez, that's a terrible idea, Mike. Like, definitely do not do that. I'm really glad you called because I was in your spot. I was in your shoes 5 years ago. And here's why I tried that and it worked terribly. So don't do that. Do this instead. So, one, having that support to make the best decisions, I think that differentiates us. Two, the fact that we are wholesalers, flippers, buy and hold, like we do all of that as well. Like we live and breathe that. I know in the beginning you mentioned the 20 plus stores. That's between me and Kevin has a majority of those. But yeah, we own property in multiple states. And so we know what it's like to have a rental property in a state you don't live in. So we connect with the buy and hold renters, buy and holders on that side. We know what it's like for a city you do live in. So we can connect with them on that side. People that flip remotely and people that flip in person, we've done all of that as well. So we know exactly what it's like to live that lifestyle and live that business model. And at the end, yeah, like our goal is to make money and we want to keep the lights on. But there's also been plenty of times too where like where we've made what might be considered bad business decisions, but it's to help somebody out at the end of the day. Just trying to be that good person too.
For sure. Let's talk a little bit more about your future and you and your partner and what you guys are going to do. So you guys built a very solid portfolio of consisting of everything as you stated, and you said you guys are planning to double it in the next year. Is that correct?
That's the goal.
Amazing. So what's your long-term vision for your business and investments, following that? And are you shifting towards more passive income, or do you still enjoy the active side of flipping and wholesaling?
Yeah, we still enjoy the active side. I mean, the goal is so like I emptied my 401k. I had $100,000 and I emptied that when I left my W-2. Took, of course, that huge tax hit and fees and whatnot, and I put all of that into the business. So I am 33 years old right now and I have no retirement savings at all. So the goal is to stack as much cash as possible and then buy rentals, and that will be my retirement or buy multifamily, buy some sort of commercial, whatever it looks like. Kevin and I really like the idea of commercial. Because I mean, managing these 20 plus rentals is a whole nother arm of the department, and that can be a little bit of a headache or a lot of bit of a headache depending on what's going on. So maybe having one tenant for an industrial property or some triple net lease. Again, I don't want to, just make things up here because we have a lot to learn about that, but we like the idea of that. But the goal is to, yeah, continue to buy and build businesses. That's who I'm aligning myself with right now, and to continue to grow businesses, and just have folks that are part of our teams that want to grow themselves personally and professionally and help them along the way. Like it's not just about me and Kevin. For the four people that we have that are a part of our team, we want them to accomplish all of their goals as well. And that's really how we create the company goals is we go to all of our employees and say, what are your financial and personal goals for the next year? Put all those together, make some tweaks and adjustments, and that's how we come up with our goals for the company. And so we're not going to achieve ours unless they achieve theirs. That's a long answer. I'll quit rambling and say the short version is we'd like to be in 10 different cities for both our Joe home buying company. So basically whole real estate investing. And then we recently opened a dumpster rental roll-off business as well. We want to be in 10 cities in that too in the next 10 years.
I love the vision, man. Love it, man. So you would say, so you're saying you want to go to 10 more cities. Can you share with us some of the markets you guys are hoping to expand to in the future? And let's just talk a little bit more numbers. Can you also share with us one deal, maybe one of your recent deals? It could be either wholesale or flip. That's pretty memorable, some numbers, so we're kind of more familiar with like the Kentucky market.
Yeah, for sure. So we recently started moving into the Cincinnati market. So that's just
Mhm.
about 90, 100 minutes north of Louisville. I also like the idea of Tennessee. I'm pretty sure, I think there's no capital gains tax in Tennessee. And so for the number of wholetails that we do, that's one thing that the light bulb kind of went off my head as I was like, man, we're going to get hit hard with capital gains tax because we're buying these properties for, 80 grand and we are selling them on market 3 weeks later for 110,000. So that's gonna be, we did that 26 times. Like that's gonna be a lot of capital gains tax we're gonna have to pay here in Kentucky. So want to move into markets that have different tax benefits. We are not too keen on like the Sun Belt. Um, and I don't want to say that we're not afraid of a challenge by any means, but there is less competition and things are cheaper. And so if it's worked for us, then we're just going to continue to work on what we know. And we know the Midwest pretty well. And it's going to be easier for us to learn that than if I, started operating in Miami, or you might just see me getting my butt kicked for a lot of months before something happens. Where compared to if we go to Cincinnati or Knoxville, which is only a few hours away from Louisville, it's easier for us to, maybe not easier, but it's simpler, it's more efficient for us to build a team a couple hours away in that sense from where our headquarters are. So that's a little bit about the cities. I did have this ready and see if I could figure out like a specific deal that I wanted to share. I mean, I guess it depends on kind of what you and your listeners are looking for. Like there's wholesales that we got for 170 and assigned for 194 16 days later. I'm like just looking at my spreadsheet here. There are, so that's a $24,000 wholesale that we got for, in 16 days. So pretty much 2 weeks. There's other ones that we've assigned where it was more normal, taking 30, 45 days, and we would make that 20 to $45,000 assignment fees on. Where we're human at the end of the day as well. We try things out. We know that we're gonna, you know, take a little bit of risk where we bought an on-market property and was able to get it for a lower price. Like it was actually listed at 60. We bought it for 45 because we got it lower for cash using our negotiation skills. So bought that on market. didn't do anything to it, relisted it, and then just did a better job than the original listing agent and then sold it for 60. So it was
Wow.
originally listed at 60, bought it for 45, relisted at 60, sold at 60. Um, but that one took 77 days, according to my spreadsheet here. So we still ended up, that was like the closed revenue was that 15. I think we ended up making like net profit, like 6 grand on that. Because we go to pay interest to the private money lenders and holding costs, closing costs, things like that. But it was that's what we like about that business is it's a game at that point. It's like, how can we take some risks and make some money? And we've
For
lost
sure.
lost money too. And that's the thing about this market too is the losses, unless you're doing something crazy, are a lot less. The most money we lost ever on a single deal was $6,000, or maybe a little bit less than
Wow.
that. Like this one that we lost on, we closed middle of last month, so mid-February, and it was one of the wholetails. We got it at what we
Mhm.
thought was going to be a good deal. It was, I think, it actually was not listed on market. How did we get this one? We got this one. This is a PPC, so a Google PPC lead. We got it. It was clean. It was in like a decent part of town, not good, not terrible by any means. We got in there. Place looked good. Picked it up for 159, and then didn't have to do anything to it. I think we like maybe we painted the walls, like cleaned it up a little bit, of course, but there really
Mhm.
wasn't much that we had to do for it. And then that one sat for a long, long time. We sold that one 205 days later for
Wow.
194.5. And after a lot of interest in closing costs and holding everything like that, we lost $2,359 on it. So again, not the end of the world. Obviously, we
No.
don't like losing money, but for that side of the game that we're playing, like that's a risk we're okay taking. Obviously, don't like losing money, but that's better than adding an extra zero or two on the end of that and losing.
For sure. No, it happens. And Mike, as you shared everything with us today, your story is amazing, very inspiring, and I see a very bright future ahead, especially in the Midwest. And I really believe in the Midwest as a market. I think there's a lot of potential, and I've speak to so many investors, and they really say that as well. So to wrap this up in a way, if you could share just one piece of advice or a quote that has the biggest impact on your success as an investor, what would that be and why?
It's a great question. I was actually just talking about this the other day with somebody. The best piece of advice that I've had, there's been a lot of it, but like what comes to mind, and I can't remember where I heard this or found this, but it was when I was deciding to like, should I quit my W-2 and jump into real estate? And the advice that I got, it was like a book or a podcast, I can't remember, basically said, actually sit down and write down the worst case scenario, like a realistic worst case scenario, and play that out. Because we are, as I'm learning more and more about negotiations, I'm learning more that we are, as human beings, are very emotional creatures. And fear is always going to be way worse in our head than it is in reality. It's a mile wide and actually an inch deep. So when trying to decide whether I should quit my job, I sat down and wrote down like all of these things that could actually happen. And then I went through and I was like, okay, what's realistic? Like, I'm not going to end up homeless. Like, not to be rude, but like, I'm too smart for that. You're too smart for that. Most people who are probably listening to this podcast are too smart for that. If I quit my job and I fail, I'm pretty sure the worst case that's going to happen is my 401k will be gone. So I've lost $100,000, but I won't be in debt. Maybe I'll buy a property or two that isn't cash flowing, and so I will be in debt. I'll have to sell those for a loss, and then I'll be in debt. What's the worst case? I've got like 50 to 100 grand in debt, and then I just go get another job. Like I have those 10 years of experience, and then I'll have to live a very normal, that's fine, rice and beans kind of lifestyle for a few years. And I say that now easily, like that would for sure suck, but my wife has a job. I'll still have a roof over my head. There will still be food on the table. Like we're going to be okay. And at the end of the day, then on my deathbed, I'll know I tried. And so
Wow.
writing that out, I was like, hell yeah, let's go for it.
That's amazing, man. That even inspired me. Thank you for that. And hopefully it can inspire our viewers as well. And just like you said, man, it's perspective. Everything is perspective and not taking things to an extreme. Another thing I wanted to say about the fear and excitement and the psychology behind it, I heard something really, really interesting about at the end of the day, they're both the same emotion for the brain. It's just the way you
Mm,
put it in perspective. So let's say, I don't know, you're about to go jump off of a plane, something extreme. If you tell your brain, I am scared of flying, I am scared of flying, and switch it to I am excited of flying, that's gonna change your brain. So you're just putting things into your head, having that positive energy, having that excitement to jump, and do the bigger challenges in life because they will reward you in the end. So I love that advice, man. It's amazing. Hopefully I can make a cool reel out of that, share that with our viewers. Thank you
you said that
again.
was getting me pumped up. Yeah, I got chills listening to what you said. That's that whole mindset, just like, yeah, telling yourself excitement and fear are the same thing in your brain.
The
That's
same.
great. I'm going
It's
to
literally
shamelessly
the
steal that.
same. No,
Yeah.
for sure. That's yours, man. Mai, thank you so much for sharing your insights and experiences with us today. It's been a pleasure having you on Investor One-on-One. If our investors want to connect with you and learn more about you, how can they find you?
Instagram's the best way, rei.mikeg. I'm always on there and happy to connect with anybody. Would love to. And I appreciate you too, Or. This is super fun. I'll have to come down and
Amazing.
visit in Miami sometime. You
For
take me to
sure.
Cabana beaches and whatnot. I'll play some volleyball. It'll be good.
For sure, man. You're more than invited. We'll come. We'll have a good time. And to our audience, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay connected for more interviews with the nation's top investors. Thank you so much.
Thank you.